First of all, thank you for having me on your program. It's a privilege. You see, ethanol program goes way back, maybe even more than 22 years. The reason for this is, you see, India has always been energy deficient. As you're aware, we import huge amounts of crude, which has a very negative impact on our economy. It also has a negative impact on the environment, and also we are susceptible to any disruption in supply. Recently, we've seen how there was a crisis because of the West Asia situation. So the whole thing started with energy in mind. Recently, the program has picked up and it has helped to solve many other key societal problems. For example, if you remember 5-6 years ago when ethanol program hadn't picked up momentum, there used to be a lot of farmer agitation. Sugarcane farmers protesting that they're not getting money. They were not getting money because the entire value chain in sugar industry wasn't financially viable to pay the farmers. Similarly, you would remember 5-6 years ago, there used to be media coverage about rice rotting in Punjab, wheat rotting in Punjab. So what the government in 2018 has done is it's taken a very logical step that you see farmers will produce sugarcane, farmers will produce rice, right? And when you produce this in excess, it's going waste, right? Rather than going waste or paying huge amounts of taxpayers' money to export it to other countries that India was doing for some time for sugar, they decided to promote ethanol in a bigger way. We have enough of excess food grains and molasses to be able to produce ethanol. So it answered one other very critical issue, which is the distress in agrarian economy. The farmers' income went up. As per the latest statistics from the government, the program so far has helped save 1.9 trillion rupees, 1,90,000 crore रुपया. उसमें से 1,60,000 crore, 1,60,000 crores has gone to farmers. So in case of India, it's not only helped us to in some way mitigate the energy crisis, but it's also helped us to help the farmers. It's been an inclusive program. Farmer incomes have gone up, whether it's in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or very rural areas or the areas where a lot of sugarcane is grown. Most importantly, this is carbon neutral, meaning carbon dioxide is absorbed by plants when they grow, and when you make this into fuel and burn it, the carbon dioxide that comes out is actually absorbed back by the plant. So it's carbon neutral. So it's the best fuel if you want to fight climate change. So in summary, the reason why not just India but many other countries are doing it is for energy security, for agrarian economy, as well as for the fighting the climate change and environmental purposes.
Yeah, also, we witnessed that there are a number of myths about this ethanol. So, what are the most common myths about the ethanol-blended petrol among the Indian consumers?
I think there is a lot of misunderstanding about the fuel. For example, if you look at it from the automotive sector, there is a lot of myth that if you use E20 blended fuel, vehicles will get damaged. It's a myth. It doesn't happen this way. There's a lot of myth about the amount of mileage loss or the fuel efficiency loss. Yes, there is some fuel efficiency loss, no doubt, but it is not so big as it being made out to be. The third thing is there is a lot of myth about the ethanol plants being very dirty. In fact, all ethanol plants in India are supposed to get environment clearances. They are supposed to be zero affluent plants, and they're also supposed to use a lot of the stuff that is created, bagasse and all. So they are extremely clean in terms of their processes. Sadly, there is a wrong impression also being created on that. So I think there is a lot of confusion and there is one other myth, that, the government is now talking about E85. People are saying this E85 will, shall I buy a car because now E85 will be coming. Perhaps what they need to understand is E85 and E100, that is 85% ethanol and 100% ethanol, is not meant for regular cars. It is meant for a different type of technology which is called flex fuel vehicle. This vehicle can take any mix of ethanol. So people need not worry. E20 is the standard fuel that will be available, and it is compatible with old vehicles and new vehicles. All vehicles sold after 1st of April 2023 are fully materially compliant with E20, and people need to be reassured that in 2021, before we went into E20, there was a very detailed scientific study done by the most leading automobile testing agency in the country, which is ARAI. It clearly established that the possible damage to cars and two-wheelers which are old is not there. It's very insignificant. And it also established that the fuel efficiency loss is to the extent of 2 to 4%, not significant.
There is one more myth about this E20, that it is damaging the engine of the car. It is everywhere on social media or everywhere. So is it scientifically justified? What do you think?
Well, I would go by the study done by technical experts, which is ARAI. They did a very exhaustive study taking very old cars and two-wheelers and did this test for very long miles of running. What they found was there was no significant damage at all. There was slight wear and tear increase for rubber parts, which can easily be replaced and are not very expensive. So in short, no, there is not significant damage at all.
And are all petrol vehicles in India are compatible with the E20 fuel, and which vehicle owner should be aware of the compatibility guidelines?
Since 1st of April 2023, all vehicles are materially compliant, and 1st of April 2025, they are also emission compliant with E20. So every vehicle sold in the country after 2023 is E20 compliant. Before 2023, the vehicles are also capable of running on E20 without any problem.
And so, will using ethanol blended fuel affect the mileage or the engine performance in the Indian driving condition?
Well, mileage, like I said, the study shows there is a small drop, 4%, 5% thereabouts. It is there. The reason for that is ethanol has lower energy content. So for E20, it drops around 4 to 5%. Performance actually improves. Why, you may say? Because you see, ethanol, the acceleration improves, right? The octane number for ethanol actually is much better. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that in Formula 1 racing, pure ethanol is used. So you can't say the performance goes down. Performance actually in terms of acceleration and torque, etc. improves.
Also, there is one more confusion in India, that was a difference between E20 and E85, and which those cars where we can use the E20, the same car we can use for the E85 also.
So E20 means the fuel which has 20% ethanol, 80% petrol. E85 means 85% ethanol and 15% petrol. E20 is the national standard, and there is BIS standard for that, and E20 sold in the country meets that standard. E85 is also a standard for fuel, which is also regulated by BIS standards, but E85 is not meant for regular cars. It is only meant for vehicles which are capable of handling any blend of ethanol from E20 to E100 or E85. So this is the case even world over. So vehicles are designed in a manner that the vehicle can take 20 or 30 or 40 or up to 85, or some vehicles even E100. So that fuel is being created because when now we have surpluses of ethanol, so instead of changing 22, 22 or 25, it's better that we do flex fuel vehicles and the excess ethanol can be used by them, which is through E85 or E100 regime. That's how the higher amounts of ethanol utilization takes place world over. For example, in Brazil, their monofuel standard is used to be E27, now it's E31. In India, it's E20, but they also sell E100. Now, their national average of ethanol used is close to 50-55%. Now, you'll ask me, how is the national average 50-55% when their monofuel is 27 or 30-31%? It is because a very large number of vehicles in their market are flex fuel and are using 100% ethanol. So the average is going up to 50-55%. In India also, to use the excess amount of ethanol that is currently available, and we are so, it's a sad situation that we're not able to use that potential, and instead we are importing, very costly crude. That excess will be utilized from introduction of flex fuel vehicles. And as most of the people may be aware, some time back, bikes, scooters, and four-wheelers, which are flex fuel vehicles, have been started to be introduced in the market.
As you have mentioned about the Brazil, so my next question was that Brazil is a country who use the highest ethanol blended petrol. US also use it. The country which produce BMW, that country also use the ethanol blended petrol. Then what's the problem with India? Why India is not accepting this ethanol blended petrol? And one more thing, if we want to match with their pollution, their road qualities, their buildings, their technology, then why we are not agreed to match with this?
It's a very good question. That is something that we must ask ourselves as Indians. Why? What's the problem? All the countries, they have various amounts of ethanol being used depending upon what ethanol is available. We have huge potential. It helps the farmers. It helps us avoid unnecessary outgo of foreign exchange to buy crude oil. Now, in India, if you look at it, the potential, like I said, is much, much more, right? In fact, this whole issue of E20, if you remember, arose almost 1 year back in August of 25. I believe, this is my, how I can recollect. I think some people also went to Supreme Court on this issue of blending at that time, and the court was assured that this is all okay. I think there is also a need for all of us to create awareness so that this misunderstanding and misinformation is avoided. People are not supposed to be experts. They become anxious and they tend to believe what they see, right? So it is also the duty, I think, of all the stakeholders, whether it is auto manufacturers or the oil marketing companies or the government, to give the right position and the right facts. And therefore, I think that is something that's important, because I cannot expect a common man to know all these details that I'm saying. How can he? So you can't blame the consumer. The consumer will become anxious. So therefore, I think there is also a need to enhance awareness and assure people that there is nothing wrong and there is not going to be any problem.
It's okay that government is saying us to use the E20, it's good and all, but there are a number of masters on the social media who is saying that no, these are the disadvantages, these are the cons to use the E20. Then what we can do as a system so that we can aware people or send them a correct message that no, this is good, then what we can do for the normal public?
I think the best thing is that tomorrow somebody can ask me, you're saying everything is good, and there's another person who's saying there is issues. Who should I believe? I think my answer would be you should believe science. You should believe scientifically conducted studies. In India, there is a few agencies who are mandated to do only the testing and certification and homologation for vehicles. You can't sell a vehicle in India without testing for emissions, durability, and also for safety. These agencies, like I mentioned, ARAI is one very prominent and the oldest automobile testing agency, has conducted in a scientific manner a detailed study on what is the impact of E20 on old vehicles. Now, we all have to just go by that, which is now being, which is being shared by the government also, saying this is the outcome of that study. So that study is saying and telling people that there is not major impact on the vehicle at all, and the fuel efficiency drop is there, but it's only very minor, 4 to 6%. So I think we have to basically believe that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much to talk with ANI. It's really my pleasure.
Just one last point I would say, forget the fuel type, etc. My one question is, if I am driving a vehicle on a particular day, and if I am driving on another day or somebody else driving along with me, will the fuel efficiency be same? No. Because there are so many factors. There is tire pressure, there is acceleration, deacceleration, there is congestion, there is how much air conditioning you're using, there is also whether you're maintaining the vehicle, whether your air filters are clean. So, you see, how can you then just say that my fuel efficiency is only due to this? Right? Similarly, there are vehicles which are being maintained and there are vehicles which are not being maintained. Right? So that's also something that we have to look at when we hear a lot of things in the market. And that's why what you need to believe really is a scientifically conducted study by a technically expert agency, which does all of this in controlled conditions, which is what I mentioned about ARAI.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you
So much for talking.